Good evening, everyone. I'm Nick, here in Gulu, northern Uganda, where I've been living for the last 11 years with my wonderful wife. And 20 years ago, I was in second year med school. I joined an incredible group of medical students and doctors in CMF who were trying to figure out how to follow Jesus in their life and work. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so happy to be here speaking with you here tonight. In 2,000 years ago, there was a man who was also God, who also had hope for the future. He believed in his disciples. He believed they were capable of great things. And before he sent them out on their very first mission, he said this: "As you go, proclaim this message. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, so freely give." That's hope. Hope that Jesus puts in us. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy. It almost sounds impossible, but I want to draw special attention to that final one: cleanse those who have leprosy. Now, whether the leprosy at the time of the Bible is the same as today, or whether it was a catch-all phrase for a range of skin diseases is up for debate. But what isn't up for debate is how Christians responded to this incredible command from Jesus. But what isn't up for debate is how Christians responded to this incredible command from Jesus. It all started with those first disciples who heard it with their own ears: cleanse those who have leprosy. They didn't know leprosy was caused by a bacteria. They didn't even know what a bacteria was. But they trusted in the hope Jesus had instilled in them, and they prayed for healing, and they healed people with leprosy. Then 400 years after Jesus, Christians started the very first hospitals, houses of healing, for all people of all classes, rich or poor. They didn't know what a bacteria was either, but they cared for people with all diseases, including those with leprosy. Then 1,000 years after Jesus, when leprosy became rampant in Europe, Christians opened hundreds of leprosy hospitals and became part of stemming the tide of leprosy that swept across Europe. That was 400 years after Jesus, 1,000 years after, and now we move to 1,900 years later. We'd finally learned what bacteria were. We'd finally figured out how to treat the bacteria that causes leprosy. And Christian doctors responded in the beautiful way that they always have, by setting up leprosy treatment hospitals around the world, including one close to here in Uganda on Bwama Island on Lake Bunyoni. And praise God, after 2,000 years of faithful care from Christians, amazing scientific breakthroughs, and the hard work of thousands of Ugandan medics, most of them Christian, of course, in Uganda last year we only had a few hundred cases of leprosy. And that hospital that used to be on the island doesn't need to treat leprosy anymore. It's now a school and a tourist attraction. In 2,000 years, Jesus put this crazy amount of hope in Christian healers. Cleanse those who have leprosy. And just think how much fruit has come from that hope that he instilled in us. And it's not only leprosy. Christian medics embodying hope have been a huge player in seeing Uganda's child mortality rate drop by 5 times and the life expectancy increase by 20 years in just the last half century. And you could say, Nick, you're just being too positive. There's so many tough things in this world, but I bring the story tonight of hope fulfilled. Because we live in a culture that I think often sees the worst side of humanity. At times it almost feels like we live in an anti-hope culture. We're full of anxiety, and hurry, and pessimism, and negativity. We worry about tomorrow rather than embodying the hope which Jesus has given us. And I think maybe it's almost not cool to be hopeful anymore, which I think is quite sad. But as Christian medics, we have an unfair advantage over this culture of worry, because we know the story of how far healing has come over the last 2,000 years. And I want to finish by sharing our story of how a small group of us here at the Diocese of Northern Uganda are muddling along, trying to embody that hope of healing that Jesus gives us. 9 years ago, the Bishop of Northern Uganda asked me to help manage 9 medium-sized rural health facilities for the diocese. And a big part of that job was moving between these health centres and supporting them. And as we'd move between health centres, people would ask us, well, that health centre's over there, but what about us? We don't have healthcare right here in our village. And a group of us at the diocese decided we would try and do something about that. Personally, I was inspired by an amazing Kiwi doctor, Edric Baker, who spent 30 years in rural Bangladesh treating the most people he could in the most cost-effective way possible. And if you want a bit more hope in your life, read his biography, Dr. Brother. It's amazing. Anyway, generous churches from New Zealand helped us raise money to launch 4 small health centres. They operate in these remote rural areas. They're run by local nurses out of rented rooms. And these incredible nurses can do a lot in these small health centres. They treat infectious diseases like malaria, pneumonia, and diarrhea. They provide family planning and even treat chronic diseases like hypertension and diabetes. They provide comprehensive primary health care in the most remote areas. And after we saw these first 4 health centres thriving, we decided to grow the initiative and give it a name. And we chose the name One Day Health because of this hope that Jesus instills in us. This hope that one day everyone will have access to quality healthcare. And even beyond that, this final hope that one day there will be no more crying or pain, for those former things have passed away. And now, 7 years after the start of One Day Health, we have 43 One Day Health centres across Uganda. And this year, we clocked over 200,000 patients treated by our incredible nurses in those remote rural communities. And so my challenge, or really my encouragement for you today, is to find your countercultural path. Find your way to embody that hope that Jesus has in you. And as Christian medics, we have this hope advantage because we come from this incredible heritage, this history of Christians that have shaped the medical world that we live in for good over the last 2,000 years. So with every patient we care for, each management decision we take, whatever our next step is in our career, our journey, our work, let's embody this hope that Jesus gives us. That's all from me. I wish I was there with you, and maybe I will be next time. God bless.